Well, March is here. The madness has begun. NCAA Tournament Selection Sunday has come and passed, and we are a day later, but here to break down the bracket for you from our perspective, give you guys our reactions. Welcome into the KCSA pod. King Russell, Austin Ecker with you guys on this one. No JB, no Spencer. We'll get some of their takes later in the week. But awesome, we gotta talk about Selection Sunday, not just the KU's path and the bracket there, but we got to look at it as a whole. Those of you guys watching live with us tonight, comment section is open as always. Give us your thoughts on the bracket, sleeper picks you guys like, your Final Four selections, the biggest upsets you're looking for, and of course, any of KU's path along the way. Twitter, Facebook, live right now, YouTube as well. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. We greatly appreciate that. And tune in. We are doing a bracket challenge, a free bracket challenge this year. This is our third year doing this. And like I said, free this year. And the winner, if I can use my little prop here, giving away a signed 2008 National Championship basketball signed by Mario Chalmers himself. So that will be going to the winner of our bracket challenge, and you'll see the details in this video. You'll see it also in the comment section later. Check it out. We'll have it all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. We'd love for you guys to join. Up to two entries per person. Winner gets the basketball. Looking forward to it. And thank you, everybody that is tuning in tonight. Again, if you're listening to this later, Spotify, we also appreciate you guys there. But let's get into it, Austin. The field is set. We've got quite the bracket here. What were some of the things that stood out to you as the first off, KU didn't have to wait long. I mean, usually we're used to KU being like one of the final regions, it feels like the last couple of years. Boom, First 2 minutes you find out what our draw is. But what were the things that stood out to you at first glance with this bracket?
I mean, just the amount of juggernaut coaches that we've got in our own region. And then obviously, there you go. I mean, Rick Pitino, John Shire, Tom Izzo, and Dan Hurley are all going to be in it along with Bill Self, obviously. This is going to be it's a tough region for us. We get St. John's again in the first round. I mean, last year we were slated to play St. John's in the second round had we beaten Arkansas. So we'll probably get a chance to play them in the round of 32 as long as we take care of business in the first game. But that round of 32 game is going to be big, especially if we can take care of business against Cal Baptist. Get a chance to play Zuby Ejiofor again, for the first time since he transferred. And, that was a guy that was in my sport management class. So I remember him sitting next to me in the majority of those classes. But, I mean, just with the whole bracket, looks like we're probably going to play Duke, in the second round, Sweet 16 probably. So you say, it's not an easy path for KU.
So Duke gets the overall number 1 seed. My first reaction to that, I thought Arizona probably could have edged them out and still getting the 1 seed because I thought they had a tougher tournament, Big 12 tournament run. I mean, Virginia looked pretty good and brought it down to the wire. The Virginia team that definitely moved up the leaderboard as far as what their ranking is. But Duke gets number 1 overall seed at East. Already conversation that they have the toughest bracket of the 4 number 1s. Some are saying, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you've got these legendary coaches right here, several championships between them all. So it's gonna be tough path for Duke. We'll get into that. Florida 1 seed, Arizona 1 seed. Now I'm just going blank on the 4th 1 seed.
Michigan.
Sorry. Yeah, Michigan, who did not look good in the Big Ten tournament, struggled to get by anybody, and then lost to Purdue. And Purdue jumps from I thought they were going to be a 5 seed, jumped up to a 2 seed the way they handled that. So a lot to get into. Any other teams that stood out to you as far as surprise rankings, or I'm not really big into diving into the bubble teams. You're on the bubble for a reason. Go out, win more games, get in. Miami, Ohio was the big conversation, going undefeated in the regular season, loses their conference tournament, still sneaks in with a pretty weak schedule, but they snuck in. Oklahoma out. Auburn out, two of the teams that were close by. Yeah, I'm going to try and pull up the bracket here in just a second, but
Yeah.
before we dive into like matchups and each quadrants, like who are the teams that just right away stood out to you as, oh, that's the Cinderella team to watch. That's the team that's gonna
Ooh.
go upsets.
Well, we didn't really have a Cinderella team last year, so it's kind of hard to tell whether or not there's going to be one this year. I mean, if you look, Santa Clara, they play Kentucky in the first round. I mean, Santa Clara could be a team that ends up, winning maybe more than just that game and goes on to advance to the Sweet 16 or Elite Eight. You never know. I mean, as I'm kind of looking all around this bracket, I mean, I really don't see, many other teams that could be considered as Cinderella. I mean, you look at UConn and Furman up there. I mean, Furman possibly could be one. I mean, UConn's been slipping up, as of late. So I could see that happening. But I mean, I think UConn takes care of business. I mean, St. Mary's. I mean, there are 7 seats, so they're not really a Cinderella team over, Texas A&M. I have A&M.
I would like to see that St. Mary's Houston matchup because those are two really good defensive physical teams that going at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think A&M will come out on top in that, but I mean, yeah, I mean, with everything else, I mean, I guess Santa Clara would be like my little Cinderella team that I would pick. I mean, I know people are saying, St. Louis could make a run too. I mean, they're going to have to go up against Michigan if they beat Georgia, so that'll be a tough outing for St. Louis. And I know their coach was rumored to go to K-State, and they already got their coach taken care of, but yeah, I mean, like, High Point and Wisconsin. I mean, I have Wisconsin beating High Point, but I could see that going the other way. I think it would be close, but I mean, I don't think High Point will make a run. I think if they play Arkansas, they'll probably get booted out.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things I took away was the fact that there's not really many. I mean, you're always going to have your classic upset, 12-5, 14-3 occasionally, the 10-7. 6-11 matchups, but as I was going across this, like there's not really one that really stands out to me as, oh, this is the upper seeded team that could go on a make it to the second weekend. Like South Florida, maybe good matchup with Louisville early on. Hawaii could be one that gives Arkansas a tough battle. High Point, I think, is the one I think most people are going to be looking at as upset in Wisconsin because their defense is atrocious. They can shoot lights out, but High Point also can score a ton. I mean, UCF, if you want to consider them a darling as a 10 seed, could make a run. St. Louis getting a lot of buzz. McNeese State, of course, is going to be another one.
Oh, yeah.
Back again, going up against a Vanderbilt team that looked good in SEC tournament, but certainly vulnerable there. But, yeah, I think that was one of the takeaways I had was there's just not many teams that you look across the matchups and you're just like, ooh, this is the one I want to circle right now is – the team to get to the Sweet 16. So maybe we'll see some more conversation throughout the week and get some sweet predictions. But one of the things I want to bring up as I'm going to stop sharing screen here for a second, as you're going through and looking at some of these top brackets, one of the things that stood out to me that I think frustrates me the most is how many teams don't play games in the region in which they're given. For example, obviously at the Kansas – for Kansas fans, we know 4 seed in the East, but the first weekend we're playing in California, which is, if you're not good at geography, the opposite side of the country of the East. And I know they're called regionals for a reason. That's not the full tournament bracket, but I think we got to get rid of the directional regions and just start calling these whatever business sponsor wants to fork over the most money, because it frustrates me how teams can be in a region and then play like KU and Arizona are both playing in California, but 2 completely different brackets. Missouri, a 10 seed, playing in their backyard in St. Louis. Kansas, a 4 seed, playing like it doesn't make any sense to me. I've never understood it. I know not every team's going to have a favorable geographical draw for that case, but that's just something that's always gotten me, like, especially if you're the 1 seed in the South. Sometimes they're playing out west versus in the South. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why not just keep these guys closer? If you're playing in the East region, then all of your games should be on the eastern side of the United States, the eastern half of the United States. That's my probably one biggest complaint about the tournament every year is too many teams get such a weird geographical draw. Like even Cal Baptist, don't anticipate them doing a ton. They're going to be a double-digit underdog, but they're playing an hour and a half from their home.
Right.
That can play a factor at times.
It could. I mean, I don't know how big their fan base is, but I mean, I could see them all coming out for the game. I don't know how many, KU alums we've got in the San Diego area. I assume that's not a big number, but yeah, I hope that they make the trip and make it out to San Diego. When I went up to Providence last year, I mean, there were hardly any KU fans that made the trip. I mean, like. I remember being there. I mean, there was a good portion of Arkansas fans that made the trip, which really impressed me. But for KU, there really weren't a whole lot of them, showing up to Providence. Which I get it. It's far. It's what I think like an 18-hour drive from Lawrence, I believe. I mean,
yeah, it's quite a ways.
It is.
But yeah, that'd be one thing I'd like. We never get enough like conversation on during Selection Sunday or any of the follow-up of how do you guys decide who plays where and when? Like I saw two different tip times for KU. I saw 1:30 on Friday and then I saw 8:45, which means KU is going to tip off just after 9 p.m. local time here because every game will run late per usual. And I would love to be in the room when they're putting all these details together, the logistics and all that, because like I'm sure it's difficult. I mean, I think Keith Gill talked about the other day of like there's things they try to avoid. They don't want to necessarily place a team against somebody they've already played in the season, so you don't see a lot of conference overlap. If they played an early non-conference game, they try not to match them up, depending on their seed, what region they go to. And I'm sure it's quite difficult to figure all that out, but I would like to see us maybe go to, especially the NIL era. It's all about the money anyway. Just get away from the directional regional names and just let them all be business sponsors. Just let it be the Tire Rack Studios bracket, whatever. Wendy's can get one. Adidas, Nike, whatever. I'm sure they couldn't do it that way, but you get the point. Do it something like that, regional versus directionally based, because these teams never play where it makes sense. Like you'll be playing in North Carolina, but you're in the West. I don't get it. Well, let's do this. No JB, no Spencer, so we're not going to dive into as much as we had planned, but we'll probably try and do a more KU specific preview later in the week. And we are going to talk KU in this too, which we'll get into here shortly. But do we want to go region by region first and kind of give some predictions, or do we want to go straight to KU's path?
Let's just do region by region first. I mean, like you said, we want to save the rest for JB.
Yeah, we'll go through the East last then with Kansas. But here, let's go to the West. We got Arizona, the 1 seed, Liberty University, or I guess I don't know if that's Liberty. I can't remember. It's somebody else. Villanova, Utah State, Wisconsin, High Point, Arkansas, Hawaii, BYU, Texas, NC State in the play-in game. Kind of an interesting two semi-bigger programs playing in the play-in game there. And it does feel nice to see Texas, who moves to the SEC, be struggling in college basketball last couple of years. So 11 seed play-in game, almost missed the tournament. You got the always tough Gonzaga team who plays absolutely nobody throughout the year, always ends up as a top 3 or 4 seed, gets Kennesaw State. Miami, 7-10 matchup against Mizzou. I think that's going to be an interesting one for sure. And then Purdue there at the bottom against Queens. What do you like in this bracket?
I really like Arizona's path. I think Arkansas obviously can pave their way to the Elite Eight and possibly take on Arizona if they make it that far. Now, here's the thing with Arizona, in the past, everybody thinks that they're going to make it far and everything, but then they lose Sweet 16 or something unexpectedly, or around a 32 perhaps, so I worry about that. But I do think this Arizona team is good enough to make a run, just based on how they've done this season and the fact that they've won the regular season title and the Big 12, tournament title. It's something that KU did whenever they went on and won the national championship. So, I mean, I like their chances. If they have to play Utah State, I'm not really, I think Utah State will give them a game. I really feel bad for Long Island. Obviously, shout out to them. They've got a little cool, ritual that they do for all the free throws. They go fins up or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
That. Yeah. So I feel bad for them. I hope they do give Arizona a game, but Arizona and Arkansas, I really like those two teams in this bracket. And then you look at the playing game for Texas and NC State. I think NC State will come out on top. I mean, they're a team that we played back in December, and they gave KU a pretty good game. I mean, really, other than that, like I'd say Arkansas and Arizona are my top two teams in that region.
Yeah, so far I think Arizona has one of the best paths to a Final Four. Really good team too. I mean, we saw them dismantle the Big 12 this year, destroy us to end the season. So definitely a tough matchup there. I think I really like the Wisconsin High Point. It feels like that's going to be a really high scoring game. Seems like one a lot of people are going to tell you to take the over in. For sure. Hawaii's an interesting one. I think Calipari's got a nice little spot here in the top half there. I mean, Arizona's tough, but the rest of that bracket, he's got a chance with as good of a team as Arkansas has been to really make a deep run. I'm circling BYU. I think even without Richie Saunders, you've got a chance to watch AJ DeBonsa just absolutely go off. And I think he's good enough to do some damage, and maybe that second round Gonzaga BYU matchup could be quite a fun one. Maybe BYU gets the upset there and shakes up that bracket, but I think that'd be fun. Purdue, to me, I think I don't know how overrated they are. I've never been a big Purdue guy. I think Matt Painter's fine, but they don't really ever seem to put it together. Braden Smith, one of the best point guards probably in all time, dishing the ball out. They've got a good team, but Purdue to me just doesn't. They just don't feel like that kind of team. But they do have a relatively easier path there in the bottom. But feels pretty safe to say Arizona's coming out of this side.
I think so too.
Would you go? I guess as far as most likely team to come out, I would probably go Arizona, Arkansas, Gonzaga, Purdue.
Yeah,
I would put it with BYU being a long shot. I think BYU is good enough to win single games at a time with DeBonsa, but
yeah, I mean, I think Purdue has the third best odds over Gonzaga. I just think I think Gonzaga, if they play somebody tough in the second rounds, whether if it's the round of Sweet 16, I should say, or Elite Eight, I think they can bounce out. But yeah, I like the four teams you mentioned as most likely to go on and win that region and punch their ticket to the final.
Arizona's just too good defensively to struggle that bad. Okay, let's go to the Midwest region. Michigan being the 1 seed here. One of the most dominant teams of college basketball all season. A team that scores lights out. One of the best defenses in the country. Rightfully so, the 1 seed in the Midwest. They got Iowa State as the 2 seed at the bottom there. Virginia, very strong 3 seed. They looked really good in the ACC tournament. That's hard to judge, though, because ACC as a whole just has not been the same as of recent years. They got the tough Alabama team at the 4, but they just lost, one of their best players, Holloway, who most likely will not be playing. Texas Tech, the 5 seed, without JT Toppin. Can Christian Anderson take them deep? They could. You've got the fun darling in St. Louis, the team that a lot of people are going to be talking about as an underdog. What stands out to you in this bracket?
So you got the playing game between Miami, Ohio, and SMU. I'm going to say it right now. I think SMU will beat Miami, Ohio, and take on Tennessee. So I think Miami, Ohio will get bounced in the first 4. Now I might be wrong. Who knows? Maybe Miami, Ohio ends up being the Cinderella of this year's bracket, and I could be point blank wrong about it. But I mean, Miami, Ohio, you saw that in the quarterfinal that they played in their conference tournament against UMass, and I mean they slipped away in that one. And I think SMU's they played better competition than them this year. And I said a while ago that if Miami, Ohio played the 2014 Wichita State team, which was the last team to go undefeated in the regular season, that Wichita State would absolutely blow them out of the water. But just kind of moving on here, Iowa State, I think they're going to make it to the Sweet 16. and they're going to end up playing Virginia, and Virginia is going to take them down. I definitely think that's a possibility. Iowa State historically has never been good in the NCAA tournament. They've yet to make a Final Four in like how many years? Like 40+ years or something.
I don't think they've made an Elite Eight either.
I think they've made an Elite Eight, but maybe not a Final Four. I could be
But
wrong.
even their most talented teams never make it deep. But I mean, the bracket they got, I thought they got a pretty friendly draw. Iowa State
Sure.
has
Yeah.
I mean, outside of Virginia, I think every team there on the bottom they could handle pretty easily.
Yeah.
Virginia is an interesting one to me, but I think Iowa State's got enough shooting and defense to get by something like that. So, like to me, if you weren't taking Michigan here, I think Iowa State is an easy one to pencil in. Um, I don't think Alabama is going to defend well enough to get past some of these teams. I think even Texas Tech without JT Toppin could slow them down and get past them. Tennessee could be a long shot. But there's a lot of talk on this Virginia team, and they're one right now. I'm back and forth on Michigan and Virginia coming out of this bracket because Virginia looked really good in the ACC tournament. Michigan did not, but man, Michigan, they're solid. I would not want
Very
to play
good.
them. Cool. Let's move on.
Yeah.
The South region, Florida, the 1 seed, a team that struggled during parts of the year, but then finished the year really strong. I think at one point they were ranked almost either just outside the top 25 or like 22nd, 23rd, somewhere in there. And then they kind of fought their way back up. Defending national champs. I too think they got probably, I think of the 1 seeds, the most favorable bracket outside of Houston. I mean, Houston's, but they wouldn't have to see them until the Elite Eight. You have a banged up North Carolina team as a 6 seed, and a Nebraska team that you're not really sure if they're as good as the ranking says as a 4. Iowa, new head coach, hasn't done that before there. Vanderbilt coming off a strong SEC play, and of course just destroyed them in the SEC tournament. And then Illinois, there's a 3 seed. But to me, Florida's got the easiest path of a 1 seed, in my opinion, to get there and could potentially repeat. They can score, well coached. They certainly have the capability of doing so. But what stands out to you in this bracket?
Yeah, I mean, I think Florida will ease their way to the Elite Eight, and if they do make it to the Elite Eight, I do think Houston comes out and plays Florida in the Elite Eight. And as I just kind of look here at all the rest of the teams, Nebraska, I mean, I think they beat Troy, but then I think they lose to Vanderbilt. I think they'll take down McNeese in the round of 64. I wouldn't sleep on Penn possibly taking down Illinois because Illinois has struggled a little bit lately, and that could be a potential upset. These, you said North
Good
Carolina.
old Fran McCaffrey back at Penn. Maybe wants to get a W over his old Big Ten rival there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if that matchup happened. I mean, I didn't really realize North Carolina was banged up, so I mean, maybe there's a chance VCU could upset North Carolina.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
the most popular 11-6 upset right now without Caleb Wilson. Does North Carolina have enough to get it done?
Yeah,
I wish St. Mary's was a little higher up because I do think they would give Houston a tough matchup. But like to me, this is a team that if they were the 5 seed in this, I think you could make a case for St. Mary's to make it to the Elite Eight or Sweet 16. But this to me has Florida, Houston all over it in the Elite Eight, and I think right now I would give the edge to Houston this year. I think what they're doing, full team effort. Kingston Flemings is fantastic. Emmanuel Sharp can shoot lights out. Sanak has been really solid. Tugler's amazing. Houston's the team that, like, if I had to put it in right now, I haven't put together any of my brackets yet. I'm still going through them, but Houston to me is one that I would put as one of the 6 teams that could win the national championship for sure.
absolutely.
And they feel like a smart play there. McNeese, I think, will be fun. McNeese can score. They can score a ton of points. Troy can score a ton too. This is probably the bracket I think that has the most potential for upsets in the 3, 4, and 5 games, but still feels like chalk once you get past all that.
Yep.
Okay, let's go to the East region,
All
and
right.
then we can finish all this through talking KU's path. But Duke, of course, gets the 1 seed, number 1 overall seed. They take on Siena. Ohio State, the 8 seed, taking on TCU, the 9 seed, which TCU is probably much better than the 9 next to their name. Of course, you got St. John's, the 5 seed against Northern Iowa. Don't like that at all. That Northern Iowa's in this. Flashbacks to 2000, 2009. Um, Kansas, Cal Baptist, Louisville, South Florida, Michigan State, the 3 seed against North Dakota State, UCLA, the tough 7 seed down there against a tough 10 seed UCF, and then UConn and Furman. Man, this region is just stacked. Before we get into I guess all of that, just when you were watching Selection Sunday and you saw it come out, like JB had been texting us earlier today that he was dead set on we were getting Duke and we were getting UConn. Like those were for sure the teams we matched up with. And he's not a fan of either of them, doesn't like that draw at all. I at first glance did not like our draw, but
Yeah.
as I've sat back for a day now, I don't mind some of the matchups. But what was your reaction when you saw Kansas in the first 30 seconds get the East region as the 4 seed?
Well,
First off, were we deserving of a 4 seed? Some people are saying we should have been a 5.
you know what? I think we do deserve a 4 seed. I mean, you look at everybody that we've beaten this year, including in the conference, we've beaten the other top teams. Obviously it was at Allen Fieldhouse. We didn't beat them on the road. We only played Houston once, so not much you can do about that. But I mean, we beat Arizona without Darren Peterson. We took care of business against Houston, and we beat Iowa State as an unranked team by 21 points. So I mean, like the potential is up there for KU, and I think because of those wins and some of the other performances that we've strung together, I think we're deserving of a 4 seed personally. But I mean, yeah, if we were a 5 seed, we would have had to, go up against Northern Iowa. So I'm glad we weren't a 5 seed in that regard. But as I just kind of look, at this region, obviously very stacked. One other thing that stood out to me: there's not a single SEC team in our region, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, true. SEC had the most teams in the tournament too.
Yeah, that's right. And none of them are in the East region. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. I'll start with, the very bottom of the region, excuse me. I think UCF and UCLA, that'll be an interesting game. I think it could go either way. I really like Donovan Dent, that transfer from New Mexico. He played really well for UCLA. I mean, I could see
and he should be. I think he'll be playing next week. I know went out hurt this last week, but if UCLA is healthy, they're a very dangerous 7 seed.
Absolutely. I mean, as long as Donovan's healthy, I mean, I could see them taking down UCF. Now, if they don't have Donovan, then I think it could go the other way. I mean, and I said earlier that Furman, playing UConn, that could be a game where it shocks us all, and we don't expect to see it coming. But I think UConn will take care of business. I just don't see them going far in this region either. I mean, like if they have to play UCLA after Furman, then I'm afraid that UConn's time in the tournament will be over after the second round. But South Florida and Louisville, that's a game that really stood out to me. I think it could go either way. South Florida could obviously upset Louisville. I think that's one of the other popular 11 versus 6 upsets right now. And then TCU and Ohio State, obviously, I think TCU as well shouldn't be a 9 seed. I think they should be lower than that. I think they deserve a 6 or a 7 seed. But I think they could take down Ohio State. There's talk about, TCU possibly upsetting Duke in the round of 32. I think that's a scenario that, it is very fascinating. I don't know if TCU is good enough to take down Duke, but they do play well defensively at times, I will say. And their offense can shoot, if they're on point. So that'll be an interesting round of 32 game. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we'll get into the run for Kansas in a minute. But I mean, like I didn't initially like the draw at first. I mean, and then after a while, I was like, okay, like there's a possibility that we could get out of the first round and get into the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. But yeah, no SEC teams, but still a tough region.
Yeah, I think if you like at first glance, if you just go off of names of the programs, you're like, dang, Duke, Ohio State, Kansas, Louisville, Michigan State, UCLA, UConn. Like this is a loaded bracket with a lot of blue bloods in it, a lot of dangerous teams. Not to even mention St. John's, St. John's is one of the teams I have that could win a national championship this year as well. It's a pretty star-studded, loaded region. I again, like I said at first glance, I did not like Kansas's draw with Duke being the 1 seed because I don't think we match up well against them. Um, Also didn't like having UConn in there because we'd have to see them again. Michigan State, I think, is a pretty tough 3 seed, especially coming in March. They've got good guard play. But yeah, after a day, I don't mind this draw at all. I think Duke's got a lot more pressure on them. Like if you look at the bracket, I think Duke and St. John's have more pressure than Kansas does. We could easily say Kansas has all the pressure because we've had 2 bad years in a row. You've got the best player in college basketball, Darren Pearson. What can he do for you?
Yeah.
It could be a challenge, but I think KU's path to a Final Four is there. And the more I look at this, the more I start to talk myself into it.
Sure.
But what I see here is potential for a redemption tour. You've got, well, semi-redemption tour. If Northern Iowa knocks off St. John's, then you've got that matchup where they come out and defeat us 15 years ago, and you've got the potential to redeem yourself in that game. If it's St. John's, and you've kind of got the redemption for Zuby Ejiofor, not sticking around Kansas, whether that was Kansas pushing him out or Zuby wanting to leave. You've got that kind of matchup there. You've got the Louisville potential scenario there too, with the way that game went down the wire in the preseason. Of course, you've got UConn on the bottom. So whether it's just redemption of teams that you've had losses with in the past, or for Darren Peterson, you lose to UConn, no Darren Peterson. You play Duke, almost beat them, sort of, no Darren Peterson.
Right.
There's some scenarios here where with a healthy Darren Peterson, you actually like KU's chances. So
Sure.
I'm already talking myself into a Final Four run for sure. But general thoughts on this team coming out of Big 12 play. We haven't really talked about the Big 12 tournament. The disaster that game against Houston was, one of the worst games KU's played offensively. And I feel like that's the 3rd time we've said that this year, and like the 10th time in the last 3 seasons, which is a concern. Long term, we'll talk about some of this in the offseason too, but Kansas's offense seems to have gotten worse the last couple of years. And even with a stud like Darren Peterson, just the ball movement or the lack thereof, creativity on the offensive side. So they looked really bad against Houston, of course. But how are you feeling about this team right now heading into tournament play?
Well, I think the team knows that it's a completely different season. Big 12 tournament, most people think it's a joke and that, it's nothing to really worry about. Obviously, I didn't watch the quarterfinal game against TCU because I was busy doing my thing down in Wichita, but I went back and watched some of the highlights and replay, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like we just never really got into a groove offensively. Defensively, I don't think we played terrible in both games. I thought the defense tried their best to step up against Houston, especially in the second half when we weren't, making any shots. At one point, they showed a graphic, 0 for 16 in field goals. Like, are you kidding me? Like
the first 8.5 minutes of the second half.
Like, I don't think I've seen that bad of an offense from KU since the 2024 Houston game. It was like the last away game of the season. It was 2 years ago, not last year, but it was the year before. I remember us playing at Houston, and we got blown out by like 30-something points.
Oh yeah, yep.
And it was when Hunter dislocated his shoulder. That's the game I'm referring to, but yeah, just something about playing Houston and not doing well offensively. That's starting to become a trend, and I don't really like it.
But even in the win at home this year, still didn't shoot the ball very well at all and struggled to score.
Yeah.
You just also Houston couldn't hit anything in that game either.
Well, I mean, I think Allen Fieldhouse won that game just like they did against Arizona. So I think if it weren't for that game being played at Allen Fieldhouse, I think the result would have gone much differently. And I think that point might have been proven in the Big 12 tournament. But I just hope that the team understands that, like, hey, it's a completely new season now. And it's, everything that happened before doesn't really matter for what's ahead. So I hope that they've locked into that mindset, and I'm sure they have. And I know we talked about it on the last podcast, or maybe 2 podcast episodes ago, but I was mentioning how Bill is like excited about March and
Yeah,
excited about playing in the postseason, and how he told one of the reporters before answering that, saying, "Hey, like if I wasn't excited about the postseason, I would quit my job." And he was like, "No, I like it's like my favorite time of the year, and it's like better than Christmas." And I would have to agree with that to a certain extent. It's just it hasn't gone our way the last 4 years, and we've been a first round exit since the national championship year. So I just and I tweeted it out yesterday, like I just want Kansas to get out of the first round, and I hate that.
the first weekend.
Yeah, the first weekend. Like, if we can, like, and I even said, like, if we make it all the way to the Elite Eight, like, I'd look back on this team and talk about them for sure. But like, I would personally be satisfied if we just make the Sweet 16, which that'll likely be against Duke. And I mean, shoot, I think if we do win that game, then maybe I can get into the Final Four talk. But I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. But it's kind
Could
of how
you could you imagine how differently, like how even more frustrated we would feel had Kansas not won the national championship in 22? Because you look at like 4 of the last 6 tournaments, depressing, just absolutely gut wrenching.
yeah,
Actually, you could probably even argue 6 of the last 9, going back to some of the Oregon loss, the Villanova loss, the
yeah.
USC blowout, the Arkansas loss. Like
Mhm.
outside of the national championship, like had we not won that, we'd be even more miserable as fans now. And that
Yeah.
winning cures all, but that national championship in 22 really is doing a lot to make the last couple of years not easier to
Yeah.
handle, but
I mean, it made up for the
you
fact.
have more grace for it knowing that you've won a championship recently.
That's true. I was going to say that it makes up for KU not winning the whole thing in 2020 when the tournament got shut down. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's that. But I mean, I just want us to get out of the first weekend alive, and I think if we go a 4th year in a row exiting the first weekend, then I don't think the fan base is going to be very happy, and they shouldn't.
No way, especially with the talent we have in Darren Peterson, who has now played several weeks in a row, has played mostly the entire game, averaging 30 plus minutes, hasn't looked the most efficient scoring the ball, shooting the ball, is getting to the free throw line. But K's offense, like I said, K's offense as a whole outside of that K-State game really hasn't looked good for the last 2.5 weeks. Any concern factor there, whether it's maybe chemistry with them back on the court? How much of it do you think is just really tough defenses they're going up against? Because I think to me, going into March, that's the thing you look at of now they're finally playing together at full strength, but they don't look good at full strength yet. So what's that confidence level we should have going into this weekend, even though Darren's 100% healthy from the looks of it, but the offense looks worse than it did earlier without him.
Well, I just think for every single game that we play in, we need to just imagine that we're playing at Allen Fieldhouse. And I know that's tough to do, but like apparently we can't play well outside of Allen. And that's been the story the last couple of weeks, I feel like. And I even said that after the Houston
Last
game.
couple of years.
Last couple of years, I guess. Yeah. I mean, like we just need to picture ourselves playing in Allen, picture the what is it, the 16,300? Is that the 15,000?
Well, yeah, now it's less.
15,300 was the old number. I keep getting that mixed up. But we need to just imagine having 15,300 KU fans inside Allen Fieldhouse getting ready to watch them play. I mean, I wish they would schedule the tournament, in Allen Fieldhouse to make our lives easier. But
I thought about that too. That would be interesting if the NCAA ever got to where like the first round games, the higher seeded team was hosting it at their like that would be. I don't think they would ever do
nuts.
that. But like college football's doing it, so why not do it for college
baseball's
basketball?
doing it too.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun. And that would
Yeah.
I mean, that would probably take away from a lot of the Cinderella upsets for sure, but
Right.
it might be more reflective of the true teams in the I don't know. I think that would be interesting for sure.
I mean, we just that's what we really got to do. I mean, I guess because I just don't understand why we don't play well and don't play to the level that we've played at Allen, on the road or in a neutral site. I mean, I've seen flashes of it before, this season. We can do well on the road. We can do well in neutral site games, but it's just inconsistent. So
I think what I notice in the road games, obviously Darren settles for some jumpers that he kind of has to force, but road environments, he's being guarded, face guarded, physically guarded, tough, that he's not getting a lot of looks and just feels like the offense. I mean, I think this is a Bill Self thing too the last couple of years. And some of it's probably not having the high scoring capable shooting out of your point guard, but like the ball movement, they're not attacking. There's not a lot of downhill driving. It's all this weaving out on the wing, a high pick up on the 3-point line. There's not a lot of like great ball movement, and the ball seems to stick. The spacing hasn't looked great at times, and I wonder how much of it though, like this team looks better when they still start with trying to get the ball to Flory early. If
Yeah.
Flory's not involved early, they seem to struggle offensively because that gets him going defensively. Obviously, if he's in foul trouble, it's frustrating too. But that's been one of the things I've noticed the last couple of weeks is if you're not looking to get Flory active early on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Darren can only do so much, and I mean he's a tremendous talent, but just this feels like the ball movement. They're settling for bad jumpers, long jumpers. They're not attacking the paint. I mean, Bryson Tiller gets some nice looks early and then goes through the next 25 minutes of the game looking terrible. We got to talk about that, getting benched the entire second half in a big moment where Houston's bigs were dominating Trey White. But yeah, the offense is the concern factor for me going into the tournament. I think our defense is going to be fine. Flory's incredible. Melvin's going to lock in. Um, I will say this: I was texting another buddy this week, and he was telling me how he not that he thinks Darren Peterson's overrated, but how much worse the team is as a whole with him. And then there's points there that I think are valid because defensively, I especially noticed this against Houston. And Bill even got onto him. I think it was early in the first half where Darren, if you notice, he does not like to fight through screens as much. He's always, pointing to his guy to switch. And one of the downsides to him missing a chunk of the season is I think their team defense as a whole with him on the court is 10 points worse than without him. But finding that communication of who's switching and when and where, Darren gets beat several times in the switch side to where he's then posting or he's defensively on the big man because he let his guy run around him. And that was something I noticed first half against Houston specifically, that Houston was taking advantage of that and got a lot much better looks because Darren's team defense, like he would expect somebody to, cover for him instead of fighting through. And when he's not on the court, the rest of the team seems to figure that out better. But that's another thing I've taken away, especially with him not playing as much. You don't have that defensive chemistry. But offensively, they got to find ways to get better ball movement, or Thursday, or I guess Friday, Sunday could be a long night. And it can't just be Trey White settling for semi-contested threes and long jumpers. Like that to me is the thing that stood out from Big 12 tournament. And honestly, Arizona State and Arizona, just the lack of creative offense. Just they're predictable. Seems like KU has a predictable offense.
Well, another gripe that I have about our region. I mean, obviously we're playing in the West region, but the East region. I'm getting it mixed up because we're playing
on
out
the West Coast,
west, but we're in the East region. So I keep thinking we're in the West region. But like we haven't played well, more west of Boulder, Colorado. Like if we go any more west than Boulder, we've just been terrible. I just don't get it.
I guess you could say Vegas. They looked pretty solid.
Okay. Oh yeah,
and that was without Darren Peterson.
Yeah, I forget Vegas. Okay, and they didn't play terrible, but maybe anything outside more west of Vegas, we have not done well.
Yeah, can't play in the state of Utah. Can't play in the state of Arizona.
Oh, thank God.
I'm trying to think the last time they played in California recently.
Oh,
that's actually looked.
It's probably been a while.
But honestly, that's not a bad take there. Going west of Colorado is not good for this team.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope.
I feel like that USC game several years ago was West Coast.
Yeah,
I could be wrong on that, but
No, I think you're probably
They
right. I
do.
think
They
they're on
do
the
play
location.
pretty decent outside of playing in Florida, where they don't look great either. They tend to do pretty well on the East Coast. They
Yeah.
always look good in New York. They
Didn't do
looked good
well
at
in Providence last year.
sure. They had the big win at NC State. Oh, that's an interesting take. Maybe that's why we don't see a lot of non-con games on the West Coast with this crew. Bill's team doesn't like to go west, and there's been some funny talk about out there like Arizona. The guys just goofed around in between games because the weather's nice and they're on the golf course and the resorts and all that. But yeah, it's an interesting take. Don't play out west. KU can't play in the west.
No, even
They
though we're
always
in the East region,
yeah
I hate that so much.
yeah it ticks me off. Um, do we think Darren Peterson can will us to a championship?
Ooh, just Darren
I,
Peterson.
I know JB would tell you he has no confidence this team's getting past the round of 32, losing to St. John's, getting destroyed by Zuby. I actually think we would fare quite well in that matchup. I think
Yeah,
Flory would do a fantastic job on him. I would be more nervous of playing Northern Iowa just because of history, and I don't want to see that matchup whatsoever.
same.
But I think this team's talented enough to get by the first weekend. I know we said that last week that this team has to probably at least at minimum make a Sweet 16 for us to feel confident with the way the season ended. I know they were preseason 19 overall, so theoretically getting to the Sweet 16 would be considered somewhat successful based on preseason ranking. I think they're good enough to get past the first weekend. But if they get in another tough matchup where Darren's just not getting good looks, we just haven't seen enough with Darren on the court of where the offense is going to come from. Now, thankfully, I think their first two games they would match up against any of those three teams. I think Flory would be able to get involved early, and I think Trey White would have some opportunity there too. So I'm not as worried first weekend. I don't want to say let's jump ahead to look to second weekend, but I do think this team's good enough. But can Darren Peterson get us to a championship?
I don't know. I want to say yes, but like it can't just be Darren. Like any time that we've tried to give the game into the hands of Darren Peterson, it hasn't necessarily worked out. Now he did win us that Texas Tech game. He's won us a couple of others. I do understand that, but I mean, the entire team's got to help him out. So we need Melvin to play well and Trey to knock down a few threes to get us going. So I mean,
Oh my gosh, 3-point shooting. We haven't talked about that I think much at all this season. But
can we talk about how Cal Baptist? I don't know. I think they're ranked pretty low.
yeah, they are not a good 3-point shooting.
But like they're gonna go lights out on us Friday just because.
I can't. I'm going blank on his name right now, but they have a guy that scored 40+ points. I think several times this year, and is one of the top 10 scorers in college basketball. So that's great. Melvin will be on him.
24 points he's averaging.
Yeah, I think he had 47 in a game this year, something like that, and went like 18 of 21 from the free throw line. So he can get to the free throw line for sure and attack the rim. But yeah, I think you have a very favorable first round matchup. Q's can be anywhere between a 13 and a 16-point favorite. Should easily handle that one. Right now, I think if they were to match up with St. John's, it's basically a pick 'em. Either side, slight favorite, slight underdog, depending on how they look Friday. I haven't seen like if Northern Iowa were to upset St. John's, what spread KU would have, but
Dominique Daniels Jr. That's his name.
Yeah,
that's the name we've got to remember.
But this is the most confident I feel with a first weekend.
Oh yeah,
2-game stretch that KU has in the last several years. This did not feel like when the bracket came out that you went, oh crap, we have to play this type of team. Because again, UConn, at home, UConn's a good team, but we saw how we could play them. Michigan State, we haven't played, and they're good. Fears is a fantastic point guard. Tom Izzo's always good in March, but that's probably the only team in the bottom half that you're kind of like nervous about playing. Louisville, we've already seen that matchup, so feel pretty decent going back into that one. TCU, again, we've seen that. It's like the more I look at this bracket, the easier it is for me to talk myself into a KU Duke Sweet 16 matchup to go the Elite Eight. And all the eyes on that game
Oh
with
yeah.
KU. Maybe they do what they did back in 2017 and pull off an impressive upset.
Yeah, I mean,
why not?
With Darren Peterson out there, that could happen.
So what is a KU path to the Final Four? What has to, in your mind, if you were to speak a KU Final Four run into existence, kind of give me the semi game by game prediction on how it has to go for KU to get there. Does it have to be a Duke upset before we see them? Does Duke lose to TCU in the second round? I doubt it. It's possible.
It could be possible. Now, if we do play TCU instead of Duke and we make it to the Sweet 16, I actually think TCU might beat us because, we've beaten them twice now, and they should have beaten us in the Big 12 tournament, and they should have beaten us at Allen Fieldhouse. And, yeah, I hate saying that, but that's the truth. In terms of what I think it would have to look like, I mean, Cal Baptist, that should be a win. St. John's, and it's really crazy of me to say this too, but I remember last year how everyone was like, hey, we actually match up fairly well against St. John's, and if we do beat Arkansas, we could beat St. John's and go to the Sweet 16. And here we are again a year later, with us possibly going to play St. John's in the round of 32. So, and you said it's a little redemption for us, I guess. So, I really like how we match up with St. John's, but we're going to have to get out of the first round beating St. John's because they're going to win their first game. And then I actually think it's going to be Duke in the round of Sweet 16. I keep saying round of 16. Jeez. But Duke in the Sweet 16, we're going to have to upset them. And then I think whoever we end up playing the Elite Eight, which I honestly think it's going to be Michigan State, or it could be UCLA. I have UCLA.
Honestly, dude, yeah, I'm talking myself into a UCLA upset early, and UCLA's in the Sweet 16. I'm sorry, in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, that could be the matchup.
As much as nobody likes Mick Cronin this year.
But I think that's how it's going to have to go. I think us playing UCLA or Michigan State, I like how we match up with both teams.
There's a storyline there. UCLA and UConn in the second round, two of the most hated coaches and most annoying, vocally annoying coaches in college basketball that complain about literally anything and everything. I mean,
Mike Cronin's worse than
to hate him.
Cronin is worse than Hurley. Honestly, I mean, how many press conferences of Cronin's have I seen of him
every time a microphone,
arguing with the media or being like, "Hey, don't yell at me." Yeah,
Hurley's at least you can tell it's coming from a place of super passion. Even if you don't always agree with him or think he's out of left field, it's coming from a place of passion. Cronin just seems like he just has a distaste for everybody. He just doesn't care.
Doesn't like anything at all.
Even if you look at games they win, he still talks in a negative manner about, oh yeah, we were lucky to win this one. Yeah, these guys suck. They're terrible. They don't execute well enough. We should have won by 20.
I mean, coaches that go about it that way and are realistic about how they actually did. I mean, I think they end up being more successful, but. So I get it, but Cronin can smile a little bit more.
Yeah, have some positive.
Hurley at least can do that. He can find some joy and positivity in things, especially after losses.
Yeah. I think he stopped and talked to somebody during the tournament run this last week that just stopped to actually talk to the player and tell him how good he was. But yeah, I like KU's odds in this bracket. Overall, I think there's a pathway there. You upset Duke, you have a tough Elite Eight matchup. I think Darren needs to be really good, of course, 20 plus points, and I think Flory's got to be our best player. If Flory is engaged, not just defensively, but we're moving the offense through him too, and he's scoring, it just opens up so much more because then the defense has to sink in just a little bit. Flory's a pretty good passer out of the double team, get Trey White open jumpers in the corner, get Melvin attacking downhill, get this team out in transition. I think KU actually could play fairly well in this tournament, and we need it. We've had early round exits several years in a row. Bill Self needs this. The fan base needs this. Darren Peterson needs it so that we don't look back on his season as a disappointment with him not getting us further. But yeah, confidence level right now feel pretty good. I definitely have major questions about the rotation minutes. El Marco went from a really good game to a not so good game immediately. Jamari McDowell hasn't done much in the last week. Cole Rosario, though, maybe he should be getting some more minutes. I think everyone would be on board with that, especially with his athleticism. Like there's several times, man, you're looking at him as an undersized 3-4 man. He's jumping over everybody for rebounds. Finally get some threes to drop in. Heck, even Jaden Dawson got some luck. So definitely have some questions with the rotation. Bryson Tiller, what Bryson Tiller are you going to get? Are you going to get the aggressive Bryson Tiller that looks solid, or are you going to get the timid, soft hands, can't catch a ball, can't get a rebound Bryson Tiller? I think he's also a big key. And clearly Bill Self didn't think he had it going for him at all. So because he sat the entire second half in a game that we needed him to play with the size Houston had. But so there are concerns for sure, but on paper, I don't mind the path at all. Okay, let's wrap up with some predictions. And I'll throw this up here. This is right now the top 10 most picked national champions across all the brackets so far. So Duke, no surprise, being the number 1 team in the country. Arizona, the number 2 seed, Michigan, the 3, and Florida, the 4. That basically this is going in order. I'm a little surprised Gonzaga is as high, but these are the most bet teams, most picked teams to win the national championship. I have most all these teams on my list. I would take off Arkansas and Purdue as teams I don't believe could win a national championship, but those are the other 8 I had. Who's your national championship pick right now? And since this is before brackets are officially locked in, you do have the ability to change this pick.
Sure. You know what? Right now, it's Houston for me. I mean, I think if they beat Florida in the Elite Eight in their region, they will go on and win the whole thing. I did have them playing Michigan in the national championship game. Now, obviously, I think there's a chance that they could get bounced in the round of 32 by St. Louis, and they could exit early. But man, I really like Houston's chances. I know they didn't win the Big 12. I know they lost the Big 12 tournament championship game, but I really like their defense, and I like the way that they can move the offense around too. Kingston Flemings as well. You know, he's had an incredible year. I still think Darren Peterson's a better freshman player than him, but Kingston Flemings is unbelievable. You know what? With Duke, I mean, I could see them making the Final Four, but probably losing in the Final Four. Arizona, I mean, I talked about it at the beginning. Like, you know, historically, they don't typically make it that far, but with their draw in their region, there is a pathway, you know, that they could easily make to the Final Four and perhaps get into the national championship game. But right now, I think it's Houston.
I think I'm there with you. I try to play the scenario of who can you picture after the game cutting down the nets? Who's the guys up there on the ladder, you know, snipping away at it? For whatever reason, I can't picture Duke doing it. It just, well, one, no, K fans don't like Duke to begin with sometimes, so I can't see that. But like Arizona and Houston are 2 teams I could totally see. I can visualize it right now. I can see Tommy Lloyd up there cutting down the net. I can see Houston doing it as well because I think Kingston Flemings is just such an X factor. I could see him getting up there, cutting down the net. Those are the 2 teams that I would bet the most, and I think Michigan's probably my 3rd team. Sleeper, I don't think Iowa State could win a national championship, but they're still one of my teams I like for the Final Four. I don't feel like Florida's going to repeat. Just it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
And please I do not want to see Dan Hurley get another one. Don't want to see him up there at all. I think Purdue just feels like a joke. I could see Braden Smith cutting down the net, but I cannot see the rest of Purdue doing it at all.
We could take Iowa State out of the top 10 here too. They're not going to make the national championship.
Honestly, I'd like KU's chances better, even though they have probably a harder 1 seed to go through. But
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's most of what I've got. I'm still, you know, have not made my bracket yet. Got plenty of time. You know what I don't like though about bracket challenges every year?
What's
is
that?
the way the play-in games work. Like most of the time, you're not picking a play-in team to make a run, but it's hard to like your bracket shouldn't count until the play-in games are over. And I know some
Yeah.
set up that way to where you can skip it, and some will it'll modify it based on who you pick. But like your bracket can't start. Like what if Texas looks really good in the play-in game, and that changes how you do your bracket or something like that. So I don't know because like UCLA they made it to a Final Four as the 11 seed playing game years ago, and I don't think
I
many
remember
people
that.
had them doing anything. So you don't want to be punished for that. So I will fill out my brackets, but there are times where certain playing matchups you go, this is a team that if this team wins the playing game, they could upset the lower seeded team in the first round. So that's another cruel I have. But yeah, those are our predictions. We'll talk KU basketball later this week. Probably dive in a little bit more on that. Reminder: we will have our bracket challenge. Details will be listed below in the comment section of this. You can find it on Twitter, Facebook as once I get all that posted. But again, winner this year getting the 2008 National Championship victory basketball signed by Mario Chalmers. Again, you'll have 2 entries per person, completely free to join. We'll post all that out here. Good luck to everybody in that. Good luck to everybody in your brackets this week. I'm sure we're all going to have 100 different brackets by the end of it. Looking forward to all that. But we'll wrap up there. Austin, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I don't have any other final thoughts right now. I mean, obviously, I want to hear what JB has to say on Thursday if we do get an episode in on Thursday, and obviously Spencer if he can join us. But
yeah, we have enough time between now and then for him to find some optimism because he's not feeling it right now. I can tell you guys that.
Yeah.
But all right,
keep the rest for later.
We'll wrap up there. Hopefully, talk to you guys later this week and talk all of us into a deep March Madness run for the Jayhawks. But that'll wrap it up there. Make sure you like, subscribe. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is where you can find all of us, and we will catch you guys later.